Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Halgo. This is human biology, psychology, and we are on the psychology, the brain, and mental health section, and this is part 9. So previously on part 8, we talked about the mental health hygiene, and just like dental hygiene or physical hygiene or body hygiene, there are some things that you need to pay attention to. And that was sleep. Teens need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep to function their best. Diet, everything you've learned in health class, low sugar, low in fat, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of whole grains and protein, and paying attention to what you eat and how you feel. And exercise, getting 60 minutes of exercise each day is recommended for teens, and that helps with stress hormones and endorphins, gives you the good neurotransmitters and gets rid of some of the bad. And then we talked about another kind of fundamental for good mental hygiene are social connections, and they need to be supportive and positive, and a strong sense of community is important, and the strength of your bond and not the quantity of friends is what matters, and that social media does not replace face-to-face interactions, because there's these complex physiological responses, but it's very good to stay in touch and keep ties in between. So as we know, particularly during this time, that technology helps us stay in contact, so we're not just completely socially isolated, but it's totally not the same. And that face-to-face physical interaction, where you can see, hear, smell, touch the person, is what we are wired for. And that is really important. And so hopefully we'll be getting back to that soon. Okay, so interesting about social media, and this is quoted from a newspaper, Washington Post. After rising since the early 1990s, adolescent self-esteem, life satisfaction, and happiness plunged after 2012, the year smartphone ownership reached the 50% mark in the US. This is what the report said. It also found that adolescents' psychological well-being decreased the more hours a week they spent on screens, including time spent on the internet, social media, texting, gaming, and video chats. Teenagers who get a small amount of exposure to screen time between 1 and 5 hours a week are the happiest. So this is something I really want to stop and pause and think about for a second. So your happiness is kind of what you're in control of, right? There are a couple of things that would be interesting to try. One is to see if you could estimate actually how much time you do spend on your phone or other screens. And a second one would be sometime in the future seeing if you could take a sabbatical for 24 hours from your phone and do a little experiment and see what that is like. So this is something where you may notice like your parents, guardians, teachers will try and limit your screen time, and it is not because we hate you or we don't want you to have any fun or that we're trying to control your life or anything like that. It actually is good to limit the amount of screen time you have, and there's a lot of evidence backing that up. Although they are very addictive and they have a lot of things that we can do with screens that we can't do otherwise. So it's a hard battle, and it's some that a lot of adults aren't doing very well at. So that's something to keep in mind, that it affects your happiness and it's your happiness, and that's something you should think about and maybe try and limit it when you can. So what does make teens happy? Okay, so there was a study about different activities and how happy they make teenagers, and a big one was sports or exercise had a positive impact on happiness. The more time spent doing that, obviously up to a point, but yeah. And then in-person social interaction and religious services also had a good positive influence on teenagers' happiness. Print media like newspapers and books. Homework actually makes you happier, so you can just thank me now or later. So this one is interesting because you may not think that homework would make you happy, but if we go back to some of our reasons for like the fundamentals of good mental hygiene, one of them is the cultivation of purpose and meaning. So, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We are going to be talking about one of the fundamentals being the purpose, cultivating a sense of purpose and meaning. And when you, like your brain wants to work. And so if it doesn't have any jobs, that's not fulfilling and that won't make you happy. So that is something to keep in mind when you're doing homework, you're challenging yourself, and then you have a sense of accomplishment like, oh my gosh, like I knew all these things that I didn't know, I didn't think I could do it, and I did it. I'm awesome. What else could I do? So that's homework. Working, interestingly, has some benefits, some negatives, so it balances itself out. Reading the news online has a negative impact on happiness. TV, a negative impact on happiness. Video chatting actually has overall a negative impact on happiness. And texting, a negative impact on happiness. Social media, even more so. Computer games, a negative impact on happiness. And just kind of like surfing the net has an negative impact on happiness. So let's think about these for a little bit, like why would these have a negative impact on happiness? One of them is there's just a lot of negativity online, and it's a place where it's really easy for people to be mean to each other because it's a little bit removed. There's a little bit of anonymity to it. So you are exposed to a lot of negativity online, and maybe personally people have said mean things to you using some kind of social media or texting. And also our brains just aren't wired for screens, so we don't get the same connections with face-to-face interactions as we do with screens. And you probably have some of your own ideas also. Louis C.K. video on cell phones. So this is a short video of a comedian, Louis C.K., talking about cell phones and his kids. And this is something I'm curious if you're interested in watching. It is something I have shown in the past, and there's a couple of caveats, a couple of buts. One, there is at least one swear word in it, a little bit of inappropriate comments, and the third thing is Louis C.K. Got in trouble during the Me Too movement because he made bad choices about boundaries with women. So we're not condoning any of those things. It wasn't okay that he did them. The only reason I would still show this is that I think he makes some good points on cell phones, not condoning any of his behavior. So if you think that is something you're interested in watching, let me know. That is, I think that we are mature enough to handle that. So please let me know. Another foundation of good mental hygiene is the cultivation of purpose, perspective, and humor. So please write that down. And this is something that we're not going to talk a lot about, but we are going to work through a packet to kind of cultivate that purpose, perspective, perhaps even a little bit of humor, and see what does a values-driven life look like, and where am I in line with that, and where am I not so much in line, and what could I do to bring myself more in line? Because having a sense of purpose having a sense of perspective on things and challenging yourself within a good amount of stress is healthy for you and your mental health. Okay, and then the final foundation of good mental hygiene, according to research, is mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? So mindfulness means maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. Please write that down. And it involves metacognition, which is being aware of what you are thinking. Let's talk about metacognition for a minute. So metacognition is being aware of what you're thinking, and one of its benefits, if you practice metacognition, is being able to train your brain, right? So like we'll do conditioning for sports, and just like that, your brain needs conditioning to be able to focus. I'm wondering if anybody has ever had this happen to them where they're like, all right, I have a paper due for English. I need to sit down and I'm just going to type out this paper. And then you sit down and you're like, I think I'm going to check my phone and see, oh my goodness, my sister sent me that cute little video. Oh my goodness. And then there's a link to another video and another video. Can you see that cat on there? And I think, it's kind of nice out there. Oh, there's a bird. You know, I really need to watch, I'm not caught up with my binge watching on Grey's Anatomy. I know I was late to the game, but I should probably watch one of those. And then fast forward 3 hours and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday night and it's due on Monday morning at 8 o'clock and I'm so stressed out and why didn't I just do this right away? I hate this. Okay, so has anything like that ever happened to you? And if so, would it be beneficial for you to be able to just focus your attention and get something done and move on to the next task? And that is what practicing metacognition and mindfulness can help you with. So there are quite a few benefits to mindfulness that are backed up by science. As Miss Lund might say, it sounds kind of hippy-dippy, but actually there is a lot of scientific research behind this. So what is the benefit of mindfulness? One, it sharpens your attention, just like we were talking about before, being able to just do the task. I'm writing the paper, I'm focused on writing the paper, and I'm not like off in 3 different or 3,000 different directions. It also increases your resiliency to stress. So, and this is something that is beneficial for everybody. These are things that I would like to have, like when I'm stressed, just to be able to bounce back more. And that is something that's really important in being a successful person and just being happier. So it will increase compassion, and it actually makes your compassion more effective. So what do we mean by that? Oof. So it makes you more likely to do something to help others. So instead of just feeling bad and getting stuck in that feeling of like, oh my God, the world's gone to crap and there's nothing to do about it. It makes it more likely that you will take action. It also decreases activity in the amygdala, which we know is in your brain and kind of like a more primal part of your brain. And it's the fear and aggression center, so it calms that down so you don't react so much. So while you're watching suffering, it turns that down. It also turns on feelings of connection, good feelings, and love in your brain. It turns on those circuits. So it makes compassion more effective. We're running out of time, so we're going to have to pause there. But in our next video, we're going to finish up our mental health notes. All right, thank you. See you then.